You know what we need to say this time before we start, right?
What?
Follow us on
Follow us on what?
all of the places.
What are the places?
Spotify, YouTube, Amazon.
Where else?
I said Amazon. What was the last one that we've done so far?
You're up there creating Amazon or YouTube ads, right?
Well, I just said YouTube.
Yep. It's all fancy with a fancy ocean
Thank you.
and fancy waves.
I just wanted to see if I could make a short on YouTube.
You did a good job.
Thank you. But there was another one that we uploaded after Amazon. You did it, so I can't remember which one it was.
Spotify, Amazon, and iTunes. Those are the three that I know of.
That's the one I was missing
Don't leave Tim Apple
so
out.
far.
He'll be upset.
And your next desire is to do
Rumble. Get it up on all the places.
Yes, and just continue.
Trying to think of what else we could do for Lent.
What do you mean?
Daily Rosary?
Together?
Too much?
Together?
Oh my gosh.
Together?
Could be too much.
If
With the pressure of editing.
If it helps us separately, how could it not just help us together?
It's a good point. It's a good point. Even more.
Level up. Rosary. Who wants to join us in a daily rosary?
I know. How do we get better than
Who?
Archbishop Dolan on Hallow?
He's
Speaking
best.
of Our Lady of Antigua.
We like
Antigua.
the way he says it.
I do.
We also like his rendition of the rosary the most.
Yep. It's a good
It's
one.
awesome.
Been recording now for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
You knew that, right? you,
I started to wonder partway through.
you do now. I have to get better about how to breathe.
Or we just quickly do some breathing exercises
I used
before
to
we
laugh
start
at the-
recording.
I used to laugh at the guy on YouTube, the guy that sang the Chocolate Rain song, because he would breathe away from the mic. I don't know if it worked though.
Yeah. Or if that's an appropriate song to sing right now.
I don't know. Is it
Is
ever an
there
appropriate
ever-
song to sing?
Is it ever appropriate?
I think these are the questions.
These are serious questions that need to be pondered.
These are the things.
At.
I cannot believe that it is already March.
I can't either.
It has gone so fast, and it is so disgusting because we just got through Christmas, and then it was Valentine's Day, and now we're already at Lent time.
I know.
Ash Wednesday is literally Wednesday of this week. I can't get over how fast the time has gone. Seriously.
Literally and seriously.
Feels like every time I turn around, we're celebrating something else. Although, I gotta say, looking at the calendar for upcoming holidays, the next holiday is not till May, at least as far as vacation time is concerned. So, going through 40 days of Lent and almost 2.5 months of full work days. Absolutely disgusting.
You have way more holidays than I do with work, so I'm really sorry, but
Crimea River.
I don't feel bad. I think that's my next holiday too, though, but
Memorial Day, I think.
that's like one of 7 that I get, I think. And you have what, like 450,
No,
like more days than there are in the year?
it's not that many.
Just kidding.
It is one advantage of working in one of the financial institutions.
Yes.
All right. Well, since today is March 2nd, 2025, again, absolutely scary. It's 2025 and it's March already. Then the Catholic tradition, Lent begins on Ash Wednesday and ends on Holy Thursday. So it spans an entire 46 calendar days, but traditionally counting 40 days of penance, excluding Sundays, which are considered mini celebrations of the resurrection. Now, this is interesting to me. So, if Ash Wednesday begins Lent, so that's March 5th, and is going to go through Holy Thursday, April 17th, wouldn't we go all the way through Sunday, where Easter Sunday is? How have you guys typically celebrated it in your family? Because when we begin Lent on Ash Wednesday, anything that we've given up, we've typically gone all the way through Easter Sunday.
Yes. And say what you're saying again?
Well, if I think about it like this. Tuesday of this week
Yes.
would be considered Fat Tuesday,
Yes.
which is when everybody's out dancing around with beads and cakes and king cakes and beads and
Eating the things that they think they're going to give up and doing the things that they think they're going to give up.
it's basically just
To
an
excess.
excuse. Exactly, right? If people are going to go through Fat Tuesday
Yes.
and then Wednesday actually begins Lent, because Wednesday is also a day of fasting. It's not a holy day of obligation, but it's a day of fasting. Isn't that weird?
Yes. And I thought it was the day that Lent begins.
It is the day that... No, it is.
Okay.
But it's odd to me because it's not a holy day of obligation. So I guess what I'm saying is, what's strange about if Lent really ends it ends at the Triduum, right? Isn't that what we believe? It ends with the Triduum. So you've got Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and then Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I think I understand things that way. Does it not add up to the 40 days exactly? Is that what you're talking about or no?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to figure out is the end, according to what I'm reading here, is April 17th, which is Holy Thursday. But there's never been a year, for example, if I gave up beer or something I wanted, Holy Thursday wasn't like the end cap, because Good Friday is also a day of fasting.
Yes.
And I probably wouldn't do anything Saturday unless I went to the vigil.
That's
but
what
the
I was
vigil's
thinking.
like super duper late, right?
I thought at one point, might have even been your mom, was like, I don't want to call her out, but on Saturday after, no, not liar, that we got this information from her just in case I misheard her. I thought she had said, yay, it's Saturday. Technically after the vigil would be said, whatever you gave up, we can celebrate. It's officially Easter after the vigil mass has been said.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that made sense to me when I thought I heard that. Like, if we had gone to Easter Vigil Mass, then it is our celebration of Easter starts on Saturday evening. But
only if you go to Mass? Only if you go to the vigil?
no, I thought we could do that even if we hadn't physically been to Mass, even if we were going to celebrate it the next day, because it technically starts at, like, if Mass is at 4 or 5, it starts at like 5 or 6. It's Easter. It's Easter.
Feels a little dirty.
What?
I said it feels a little dirty. It feels like cheating.
I think we were sitting in your parents' kitchen when we had this conversation, and I think you said that. I think you said it feels like cheating.
It feels a little like cheating. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
And I, on the other hand, was like, yeah, sure. This is new information. I'm all for this.
Very strange.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I do recall in the past, like on a Friday during Lent, if I gave up meat, which you should.
Mm-hmm.
So on any Friday during Lent, I think I remember like sitting by the clock waiting to see like that 11:59 to 12 p.m. Oh, can I go get McDonald's now or something like that?
When you could drive?
That was a long time ago. I haven't done that in a very long time.
When you were a teenager?
Yeah, probably so.
That sounds fun.
Why McDonald's? Because it's the only thing that's open?
Probably.
But doesn't seem
One of
like
the
that's the
things.
case anymore.
That it's not open anymore?
Yeah, nothing's open 24 hours or even like till late anymore. It feels like everything closes at 9 now.
Because of COVID?
Yeah, I think COVID ruined everything.
Changed everything?
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
You can't even go into a Walmart anymore after 9 o'clock.
Some Walmarts are not 24 hours anymore.
I think
I don't think
most
I
of
knew
them are.
that.
Yeah, I think most of the Walmarts close at like 9.
I'm not out partying past like 9 p.m. It feels like ever anymore.
Well, if you're partying at a Walmart, you've got a whole different set of problems.
Maybe you need some supplies.
Oh boy. That's that right there
Maybe
is
you just want to go see the people of Walmart.
maybe that's what YouTube's for though.
You can be home in your pajamas and
Something like that.
back on topic.
This year, Ash Wednesday starts on March 5th and ends on Holy Thursday, April 17th. This period leads up to Easter Sunday, which in 2025 falls on April 20th. The timing hinges on Easter's date set on the first Sunday after the first full moon following the spring equinox, which is March 20th. A rule established at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. I didn't know that. 23rd, 30th, April 6th, and 13th aren't fasting days in Catholic practice. I have a question about that, but first, are those winning lottery numbers?
Try it out.
I think I just might.
You got a sound effect for that? Is the cricket okay?
He's thinking about all the days he doesn't have to fast. The
trying to
question I
tell
was going to
us.
ask, though, is I have heard differing opinions on Sundays during Lent. I've heard some people proclaim that they are feast days, and that if you've given something up, Sunday is an okay day to indulge.
Yes, I've heard that too. I thought I understood that to be true.
And then I've heard other Catholics who would call you a wimp and say, no,
Keep going.
you have to hold on to the whole 40 days. In this case, 46.
Who do we believe?
I don't know. We should consult somebody that knows better than us
We need a priest.
immediately.
Call one.
The Easter Triduum is the pinnacle of the Catholic liturgical year. So that's a 3-day celebration that commemorates the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ.
And for us, that starts on
Holy Thursday and goes to the evening of Easter Sunday. Interesting.
So that helps also what we were trying to figure out earlier.
What's that?
If it stops on the vigil of Saturday, if it ends Saturday evening, that helps with you can now celebrate with the thing that you gave up, or your fasting can end.
I have many questions, and I need somebody to alleviate them. But I do think that if I spoke to somebody of authority, they'd probably say, listen, guy, you got to go through all 46 days, and whatever you gave up, you better keep giving up.
Jesus was in the desert. You can do your...
whatever that thing is. So the word triduum comes from Latin, and it means tres. So tri, I guess, translates to tres, which means 3, and dies comes from days. So tridium or tridium?
Triduum is how I keep hearing people say it.
It's less about clock time and more about a unified liturgical arc. So each day has its own vibe, rituals, and theology. So for Holy Thursday, also known as Maundy Thursday.
How do you say it? It's not
Maundy. So it's Maundy.
Maundy.
Like a Monday to Thursday job.
Yeah, it's an interesting word.
So the Triduum kicks off at sundown with the Mass of the Lord's Supper, celebrating Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples, where he institutes the Eucharist. So that's bread and wine becoming his body and blood, and washes their feet, showing humble service. So the priest might wash parishioners' feet. Awkward, but profound. For Holy Thursday, something that's always stuck in your mind is what with the altar?
The clearing off of the altar. Often it looks like a tablecloth, but what's spread over the altar?
Altar cloth.
Altar cloth. Previous altar server. Thank you.
Yep.
It's cleared off the altar that day. And then the altar is just bare and exposed.
The term Maunday comes from mandatum, Latin for commandment. So mandatum. And that's tied to Jesus' call to love one another.
Lots of love.
So following Holy Thursday, Good Friday. So what happens? No Mass today. It's the only day of the year Catholics don't celebrate the Eucharist. Instead, there's a somber liturgy. Typically the Passion reading, veneration of the cross where people kiss or touch it, and a stripped down communion from the previous day's consecrated hosts.
That was new information to both of us, right?
I recall receiving communion on that day, but if maybe I'm just completely blanking out on the veneration of the cross piece as the central part of the Mass.
Yes, which is unique that you can do that day.
So that's Good Friday is also a day of fasting, right? 1 full meal, 2 small ones, no meat, ages 14 and plus. It's like a PG-13 movie. I'm sure there's exceptions. All right. And then Holy Thursday and the Easter Vigil. So interesting. Holy Saturday, daytime is quiet. Jesus is in the tomb and the church waits. Then after sunset, the Easter Vigil explodes. It does kind of, though, because I don't know the last time that you've been to an Easter Vigil. I think the last time I went to the Easter Vigil was before you and I got married. And I remember going to St. Dorothy's in Lincolnton. And I believe that Mass began with almost like a small bonfire. So in a way, it does kind of...
What?
Yeah. So...
You guys had a bonfire before Mass?
Yeah, I think that they had a fire outside of the church.
That's
and
so
everybody,
fun.
Well, everybody has candles.
Yeah.
So everybody walks into...
them?
Yeah, everybody walks into the church with the candles, and it's almost like this act of everything is dark and everything is somber and sad. But then that fire gets lit, and then everybody walks into the church with the candles, and then they turn the lights on in the church, and it's almost like bringing light back into, the church, because that's where we believe Christ lives with the Eucharist, and so on and so forth.
Sound effect?
Yeah. All right, so...
I knew all of that, but I don't think I've ever heard of a bonfire being lit beforehand. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure that's what we've done before. But I think that ever since you and I have been married, we've ended up going on Easter Sunday. So the Triduum technically wraps up at sundown with Vespers, but the day's masses celebrate the resurrection full on. Jesus rises, death loses. It's the whole point of Christianity. Salvation through Christ's victory. Lent and the Triduum build to this. And last year, didn't we do barbecue?
For Easter?
Yeah.
Easter Day? Yes. To celebrate?
Definitely a good thing.
Or just anytime that's not Friday. Fish barbecue is not really a thing, right?
Not in this house. Do you have the piece here of beyond Catholicism, what others might do?
Beyond Catholicism, who else does this? Eastern Orthodox? They have a Holy Week with similar events like Last Supper, Crucifixion, Resurrection, but no formal Triduum label. Their vigil is on Saturday night too, but fasting is stricter, and Easter Pascha, is that how you say it? Might be May 4th in 2025 due to the Julian calendar. So many questions.
How can you have fasting be stricter? What does that mean?
I said I have so many questions, and that's the first one. Is it eating no food?
Yeah, for 40 days. 46. Although there goes through May 4th, so it's more than that. Anglicans and Lutherans observe the Triduum with Maunday, Thursday services, Good Friday cross veneration, and Easter vigils. Less intense on fasting, more flexible on liturgy.
Protestants, many skip the Triduum structure. Good Friday might get a service. Easter's big, but Holy Thursday is often ignored. No ashes or foot washing for most.
Less
I
awkward.
wonder if most is correct on that for Protestants. Because I know for a fact that some Protestants do the ashes on Wednesday.
Yeah, I wonder if it's one of those things where it just depends on whatever the, I don't even know what you call it. Not a sect, right? What do you call
I
different?
just wonder what the percentages are of Protestants. I'm curious.
I don't know. You need to go out into the street and start interviewing people or calling people on your cell phone.
What percentage of Protestants?
For non-Christians, no Triduum equivalent. Passover in the Jewish faith overlaps in timing. I didn't know that, but I guess that probably makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But it's about Exodus, not resurrection. Ramadan or Hindu fasts lack the passion narrative. The Catholic Triduum stands out for its theatricality. Lights, smells, silence, and all.
We like to be theatrical.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
We were talking about that in relation to films.
Looking at some of the other pieces of Lent through the Catholic lens, the ashes used on Ash Wednesday come from burning last year's Palm Sunday palms. I've often wondered where those are stored all year.
Oh, like if the church has them?
Yeah, I mean, they got to go somewhere, right?
In a magic box.
In a pinch, some parishes have been known to use ashes from other sources, like fireplace logs. Cheating.
I would think that there would be enough with people bringing in palms.
So this source, yet again, seems to suggest Lent's 40 days aren't quite 40. Lent officially runs from Ash Wednesday to Holy Thursday, the night before Good Friday, but it's 46 days in total. Sundays don't count as fasting days because they're mini Easters celebrating the resurrection.
You're still not going to accept the mini Easters.
I don't know what the right answer is, and I tend to feel guilty, so I'm going to fall onto the side of you probably just shouldn't.
Like, maybe we need to work through your Catholic guilt a little bit.
Maybe.
Future episode.
So if you ever wondered why priests wear purple during Lent, that's the liturgical color that dominates the entire season, and it symbolizes penance and royalty. Easter switches to white or gold for joy and resurrection, color-coding faith since the Middle Ages. And of course, Fish Fridays. Everybody's having the fish fries.
Exactly.
Which seems a little bit like it defeats the purpose to me, because if you're going to go somewhere and you're going to not fast on Friday, if you're going to give up meat, but instead of having meat, you're going to have some kind of really nice pasta with shrimp or lobster or some like beer battered fish of some sort with French fries. It seems a little like, I don't know.
Would you like to hear an AI Fish Friday Catholic joke?
You should disclaim that the joke is your own and tell it and not tell people that. That's my 2 cents.
Would you like to hear a Fish Friday joke?
There you go.
Catholics, no meat, but I'll deep fry this cod in beer batter and call it penance. Jesus is up there like, you guys are pushing it.
What's the deal with Easter eggs? So, according to this, eggs were once forbidden during Lent. Pre-refrigeration, eggs were considered a luxury. So come Easter, they symbolize new life in Christ's tomb cracking open to reveal joy. Decorating them is just something we've decided to do throughout history to make it a little bit more fun. It's the legend of the pretzel from the 7th century. Tradition says a monk in 7th century Europe invented the pretzel during Lent. With no eggs or dairy allowed, he twisted dough into shape mimicking arms crossed in prayer. 2 loops, 3 holes for the Trinity. Kids who memorized prayers got pretzels as an Easter treat, and the snack stuck. By the Middle Ages, it was a Lenten staple across Catholic Europe. This is interesting to me because my mom always does the Easter bread every year. So,
and the shape.
since growing up, There's a lady that's in my neighborhood. My mom and dad live, and she is from New York. And I guess it's just a tradition that she brought down with her, and my mom and dad, also being from New York and New Jersey, seem to really like the same tradition. But the tradition is creating this Easter bread, which is a very similar through line to the pretzels that I just talked about. It's basically like taking the eggs that are decorated and building them into these really interestingly shaped pieces of bread that then have almost like a different colored sugar frosting painted on top, if you will. But many of them are shaped into crosses, and they kind of crisscross to mimic that same symbology that I was just talking about regarding pretzels.
Awesome. Found an article from history.com. It's called The Pretzel, A Twisted History.
Does it dispel everything I just said?
Did you know that National Pretzel Day is April 26th?
I did not.
It says pretzels, or those who made them, took a particularly dramatic turn in the spotlight in 1510 when the Ottoman Turks attempted to invade Vienna, Austria, by digging tunnels underneath the city's walls. Monks baking pretzels in the basement of a monastery heard the enemy's progress and alerted the rest of the city, then helped defeat the Turkish attack. As a reward, the Austrian emperor gave the pretzel bakers their own coat of arms. By the 17th century, the interlocking loops of the pretzel had come to symbolize the undying love as well. Pretzel legend has it that in... Love that there's pretzel legend. Has it that in 1614 in Switzerland, royal couples used a pretzel in their wedding ceremonies, similar to how a wishbone might be used today to seal the bond of matrimony. That this custom may have been the origin of the phrase, tying the knot.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I thought that was interesting. And in Germany, the country and the people most associated with the pretzel throughout history, the 17th century children wore pretzel necklaces on New Year's to symbolize good luck and prosperity for the coming year. Did that come from that original? There's a lot of pretzel lore.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I just figured it was some kind of snack that was born at some point that was kind of like a poor man's, I don't know, because it's salt and basically dough, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Makes sense that you would come up with different ways to use things if you're not able to have eggs and... What was the other thing? Eggs and
dairy.
butter?
But I would think
dairy.
that there would be some kind of dairy inside of the pretzel in order to keep it together.
Interesting.
Another kind of interesting story is the one about St. John Bosco and the Lenten thief. And this stems from the 19th century. So St. John Bosco, a 19th century priest who worked with street kids in Turin, Italy, caught a boy stealing from the church collection during Lent 1860. Instead of turning him in, Bosco invited him to stay for the Good Friday service. The boy, moved by the cross and Bosco's kindness, confessed on Holy Saturday and joined Bosco's oratory. By Easter, he was helping other boys, later saying, "I rose with Christ that day." Bosco saw it as Lent's redemption in action. So if you tie that closer to Lent and Easter, you can almost look at the confession piece as Lent's penance, and Easter is kind of like the renewal of this individual that was stealing.
Also says that St. John Bosco was canonized on Easter Sunday, April 1st, 1934.
Do you have the one about St. Patrick and the first Irish Easter?
I do. St. Patrick, the missionary who brought Christianity to Ireland, is said to have ignited a dramatic showdown during Lent in 433 AD. The Irish High King,
Leagora,
forbade fires on the eve of the pagan festival of Beltane, which coincided with Easter that year. Defiant, Patrick climbed the hill of Slane and lit a massive paschal fire to signal Christ's resurrection. Right as Lent turned to Easter, the king's druids warned that if the fire wasn't extinguished, it'd burn forever. Instead of punishing Patrick,
Leagora,
thank you, was intrigued. leading to a dialogue that helped Christianity take root in Ireland. Picture a lone monk staring down a pagan king with a bonfire blazing through the Lenten silence. Easter as an act of rebellion. It's why Ireland still loves its Easter fires.
Is that true?
Is that
is that really true? You've got a bunch of people like on a hillside with their Guinnesses looking at all of the Easter fires.
All of the people in Ireland listening to our podcast. Is it true?
Somebody needs to proclaim this immediately. Dispel if it's not true.
Is that where your bonfire before the vigil came from?
Likely so. It all has to stem from somewhere historically.
St. Dorothy.
I started thinking about what I wanted to give up this year. And every year, I always try to find something that either brings me joy or convenience. And in the past, I've given up things like beer, for example. I know that if I'm going to go out with people on a Friday or a Saturday, there's likely going to be a beer involved.
Yes.
Or something of the sort.
Definitely makes sense.
And so if I give that up, it's almost like I have to go like a step further than just giving something up, because it's almost like an extra temptation because I'll be around people that are doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah, it makes you think about it like in the social situation. Are you setting yourself apart in a certain way that, like, do you want that or not?
And I don't want to not do it for convenience sake. So I just think about it from that aspect of giving up something that I love and something that I know I'm probably going to be really challenged on.
You're building up the suspense.
I know, it's not really
it?
suspenseful. I just can't think of the way that I want to say it. But I think what I'm ultimately trying to drive at is, as you get older, do you really give up a certain thing? Or is it more the act of every day during Lent being more mindful of the impure thoughts you might have, things that come out of your mouth, the way that you treat other people? Father said something today that was really interesting, and I think that triggered it all, in which he said, Lent is a time of introspection. It should be a time of changing, which is kind of funny to me because we just went through New Year's and everybody made resolutions.
Yes.
Many of which they've probably broken already.
I think I've heard that this can be a good time to like get back on track with those sorts of things too.
And it should be,
Should be a continuation.
From like a spiritual perspective, what aren't you doing that could nourish your day-to-day life from a spiritual perspective? And I think Lent, by not indulging in the things that give us joy, give us the ability to focus in our suffering on the things that can change us as human beings.
I see it as a way to draw closer to God, to become more reliant on God than ourselves. If you're suffering with that thing that you've given up, you can take that as a moment to draw closer to God in different ways. You can replace that habit with relying on God in a different way, like praying, or there might be something like you said, like saying the rosary, saying a prayer, spending time in prayer with God, helping other people in that way.
Yeah. I
think you can add things too. You don't just have to give things up.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what I'm driving at, is like getting out of the mindset of giving up a thing and focusing more on how you change yourself as a person.
But what are you changing for?
Well, I think ultimately we're being challenged during Lent in giving something up to take that suffering or that want and trying to fill it with God as a spiritual nourishment.
All right.
Do you not agree?
I do agree. I just wonder where you're going with. Was that all you were trying to say with?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. I thought there was more to that you wanted to like work through from today's homily that we listened to.
No, that was a big piece that like stuck out to me because I kind of.
So are you already pondering what you want to do differently this year than other Lents?
Yeah, I was trying to think about maybe it's not necessarily about giving like a specific thing up, but more laser focusing on like when I lose my patience and I snap, or I'm involved in a conversation with 3 people talking about another person at work. Do I really want to indulge in that?
So you want to work on taking every thought captive?
Yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make is it's almost like a moment to moment reflection rather than saying, yep, I'm going to give up beer on Fridays and then just continue to go through Lent like as I am right now.
Interesting. It's not any sort of change. The only change is giving up the thing. You're not actually going interiorly and searching yourself and saying, how can I be a better version of me?
Exactly.
I'm just pondering it while you're saying it. So
Boy, I took the
think I'm a
long
little
way
bit
around
more
to get
quiet.
there. That was disgusting.
It's not disgusting. It's not disgusting.
It was like a walk down the street, and instead I went through the woods and climbed a mountain and then swam across the ocean, and now
I was there with you. I was holding on. I was trying to figure out where it was going. That's interesting. So do you know what you're going to do differently yet, or you're just thinking about it in a different way than you have before?
I think it's a different way than I have before. If I lose my patience or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that's a perfect example of you make a conscious effort to either like swear or yell or what have you,
Yes.
or maybe during this Lenten period, it's a time to really reflect on that for a minute and go, okay, do I really want to do that? Do I really want to fall into sin? Do I really want to? Maybe I can reshape myself. Maybe I can take that in for a moment and it'll help me ultimately as time goes on.
I think that goal only has good intentions, so I would think that you'd have divine assistance on that goal for that help to accomplish that.
That's how I look at it. In between Lenten fish fries with French fries and
yeah, this year I was actually thinking about adding things instead of taking things away as well. So it sounds like we're on the same path.
What were you going to add?
Well, funny you ask. I'm actually working through a program that I didn't even know existed. There is a St. John Paul II Healing Foundation. I should get it right before I say it. There is a program through St. John Paul II Healing Center that actually comes out of Florida. And it's called Healing the Whole Person. And they actually offer it as an online course too, if anybody's interested in it. But we happen to be working through it at our church. And it's put on by Dr. Bob Schutz and Sister Miriam James Heidland. Don't know as much about Dr. Bob Schutz, but he has a couple awesome looking books, and I've always loved Sister Miriam James Heidland when I see her online. And just happens to line up with the beginning of Lent, and we'll be continuing the courses through Lent. So I think my goal is to stick with that. I think there is a tendency to, like you were talking about earlier, start something and then peter off. And I have the draw to do that. Like, I've started it and I have the feeling like, okay, I was so excited to start this new thing, and now it feels overwhelming because it's examining different parts of myself from childhood to now that there's a lot of symbolism just in the first little bit that we're looking at it, of a tree with roots and how you can't produce good fruit on that tree without taking care of the roots and the whole ecosystem, basically. And there's a tendency for me to want to run away from that because there's a lot of hurt parts of me. When I sit there and think about Lent, it also seems like a good exercise for the time of Lent and everything that goes around with Lent, to ponder and to go a little bit more interiorly with God's help.
I think that's a very noble way to approach the Lenten season.
Thank you. Because everything in me wants to do the opposite and just veg out and not work through hard things.
I'm finding more and more recently that going headfirst into the hard things has some kind of significant payoff.
I think you've always been good at that.
I don't know.
Maybe you're better than you think you are, but it's good to be humble.
Yeah. I'll continue to be humble because I don't really feel that way, but I appreciate you saying it.
Mm.
I think everything is a learning experience, so
Also good.
hence why I want to treat Lent a little differently this year than I have in the past.
Well, I'm excited to see what you decide to pursue. Is that a good word? Or
Yeah, as long as I don't come out of the other side looking and acting like a raving lunatic.
that's not the goal. I think that would be the opposite of what we all want.
Yep. Would be the opposite.
It would.
Is there anything else you want to share?
No.
Well, happy Lenten season.
Happy Lenten season.
I'm wondering what we can talk about week after week during Lent. I'm sure there's Lenten experiences. Maybe we can talk about all of the apparitions that we see as we're fasting and the Ash Wednesday ghosts that come to haunt the house.
Ooh. There's not a button for ghosts?
No button for ghosts, sorry.
Oh, man.
We can add it in
Just like that?
for future day. It can
All right.
happen. Well, thanks for chatting about Lent.
You're welcome. It seems like there's a lot to talk about with Lent
Oh, for sure.
and how other faiths look at it too. Like the time period being similar.
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
It's fascinating.
It's an article about Archbishop Dolan I want to read a little bit more too, because apparently he compared Lenten season to Ramadan. He was calling it the Catholic Ramadan. And I know he's taking a lot of flack for that, so I'm curious to read into it more than just what the headline states.
I think I came across another article about something like that, so maybe that could be the next topic.
Sounds good.
I don't think I've ever been told Happy Lenten season before.
Well, I'm saying it now. Happy Lenten
We're
season.
making it a thing.